to my journal. My name is Megan and I am quite excited today because this is the first time I am sharing my brand new Hobonichi. I had actually never used a Hobonichi before, but I kept watching all of the journaling videos and all of the journal reviews, and I thought I would love to try this. It seems like, if nothing else, just a really fun experiment. So I asked for one for my birthday, and my husband got it for me. I was so very excited and jumped right in as soon as I got it. Let me pull this out. This is the... Oh, it's got some stuff on my cover on it, but this is the Hobonichi Cousin. So it goes from July to December. And there's a set of 2 of these. One for January through June and one for July through December. But if you wait till about June, you can actually buy just the single one. And that worked out perfectly for me. My birthday's in June, and that was around the time when I was looking to get a new journal because I actually finished filling up my moleskin that I've been working in. So you will probably be seeing a flip through of this pretty soon because I got it all wrapped up, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. But I was kind of wrapping up that journal come the end of June, and there couldn't really have been a better time to jump into this. You can see it's already starting to get a little fluffy after just 1 month. As you can see, I haven't decorated this cover at all, and that's something we'll see if I decide to do or not. When I first got it, I knew I wanted to do something to it. I wanted something a bit more exciting than the standard cover, but something about this blue color just kind of threw me off. I was not sure what kind of sticker would look right on this. I know some people just absolutely cover the whole thing. So I had no idea what I was going to do with this up until right when I needed to start using it. And I went to the thrift store and found this leather cover for like $2. And it is so soft and well worn. You can tell it's been scraped up a few places. The spine is very worn out. But honestly, I don't mind that too much. I think it helps me not feel like I have to be so precious with it, and I can just, throw it around. I'm not throwing my journal around, but I can throw it around. I can toss it in a bag. I can pretty much do anything to it and not be worried that I'm gonna ruin this cover because it's already got some nice patina on it. But it is the absolute perfect size for this book. I was so pleased. So I just need to... Oh, you're gonna have to watch me struggle for a second to get this back in. There we go. I've got a little stack of just ephemera that I know I want to use soon-ish that I keep tucked in there. Then we've got our cover page. This is kind of a hodgepodge of things that I had been saving for something special for a while, and I finally decided, you know what? What's more special than the cover page of my journal, especially one that I'm keeping for like 6 months? So I've got a little cutout of a Beanie Baby kitten that came from this Beanie Baby Club packet that I showed off in another video. I can link that below. I dug through all of that and pulled out all sorts of stickers and ephemera. And so I cut this one out from a coloring sheet that was in there. I thought it was so cute. And I've got some stars. You can see kind of that they're textured. They're like little fabric stars that came from an Allie Edwards kit. My childhood home had these green gingham curtains and pillows. Very 90s. And so they just felt so homey to me. I also got a little bow with that same pattern, a couple stars. But I was very, very pleased with how this turned out. It's just so cozy to look at every time I open it up. We've got our calendar pages. I don't really have anything that I'm using these for at the moment. I'd be very interested if anyone does have something that they use these pages for. I would love to maximize all of these pages because there are so many resources in here. And I feel pretty similarly about this overview page. My best thought right now is that maybe I'll go in and kind of add a title for my different journal entries. If you have any recommendations, I am all ears for that. And then we flip into our calendar section. I'm still not happy with how this one is going. So let me just flip to July. This one's a little bit better. I'm still not quite sure about it, but I feel like it's better. Basically, my month starts out looking pretty much like this, where I just have an overview of the events and things that I need to keep track of. And then as the days pass, I'm adding little stickers or ephemera that kind of symbolize what we did that day, or just add some colorful washi in. I do love to use ephemera whenever I can. Like I've got my Panera order sticker on here and a stamp from some mail we got. And then this sticker was on our Raising Cane's order. And I love using stuff like that. Let me go ahead and flip to the weeks. And something else you might have noticed is my little bookmarks for every section, my monthly, my weekly, and my daily. I have these they're just regular paper clips with just a charm that I attached. They were super simple to make. The jury's still out on how useful they are because they thicken up the book a tiny bit, but the thing I've found the most is that the charms will get caught in there and just throw off everything. They are not very convenient for just grabbing like that. Like they take some fiddling with. So the way I have been using the weekly pages, at least for July, was sort of tracking my time and my schedule. Because I am self-employed, I feel like I easily can get floaty with my schedule and not have the kind of structure that I crave. And so this was a bit of a way to document when I was waking up, when I was having lunch, when I was starting to make supper and going to bed, and then what I was spending my time on in between all of that. It did take a lot of attention throughout the day, where I would have to come back into my book and go, okay, now I'm working on this project, now I am getting ready for lunch, and then I have all these little stickers to kind of relate to what was going on in the day. These, oh my gosh, these memory box stickers from Instant Onion, so cute. That was also part of my birthday present from my husband, and as you can see, they are almost completely used now, but I wanted to remember where they came from. So I did cut out the little label from them and stick them on this page since I used a bunch of them on the spread. Lots more just writing down my chores, my errands, my projects that I'm working on. If I happen to take a nap in the middle of the day, which is also a habit I'm trying to break, so I can kind of see what projects I was working on and at the end of the day look back and see what I accomplished. Got another one. I started ending up sticking to a color scheme as I was planning these. I think that's a pattern you'll see because I do love the more eclectic pages that I see other folks doing, but I end up gravitating toward a color scheme anyway, even though I love the look of just all the colors all on one page. I feel like maybe out of habit, I end up trying to match colors. It's also been nice to have my meal plans written down somewhere. Usually I just keep them on my phone, which is really convenient for my grocery shopping and for reference when I don't happen to be next to my journal. But I also, it's nice to look down here when I'm figuring out what dinner for every day is going to be. And then this is the end of July, but I will give you a sneak peek because I'm starting to do things a tiny bit differently now that it's August. This week, I have started to use it more as a planner, which I know a lot of people do, but for me, this was meant to just be my journal. The jury's still out how I feel about this. I've also kind of got it divided by what time we'd like things to happen. Like right now, I am filming my video in the morning, and then in the afternoon, I've got several smaller tasks that I want to try and get done. And then I even wrote down what I want to do in the evening, because I do have a habit of sitting down after supper and just watching YouTube all night, and then I'll work on my scrapbook or something while I'm watching. But there are other things like reading my library books before they're due that are leisure activities, but I want to make sure they get done in a timely manner. So up until now, I have been using my Franklin Covey planner, which you've seen in some previous videos. I've got all sorts of stuff tucked in here right now. And I still love this planner. This isn't going anywhere, but I think I will be taking a break from it while I test out this system, because part of why I wanted to do this was because I ended up needing to have my planner and my journal out all at the same time, and that takes up a lot of desk because I'd have it open to writing down what I was doing during the day and have it open to what I needed to do that day. And that was just a lot. I couldn't carry both around the house with me as I worked on stuff. I couldn't have my whole desk space open because it was taking up the whole space. So for right now, I'm taking a break and condensing into this one book. And I will see how I like it, because I know I'm very hesitant because I am not big into planner hopping. I want to pick something and then be good and be done with it, at least until I've finished the planner. Like if, once I finish this, if I decide I don't want to do this anymore, that's fine. But I do want to commit to finishing the book that I started. So I'll keep you updated on whether this stays documentation or to-do list type planner. We'll see. And then I'll skip past the empty pages to this turning the page spread. One of my goals for getting this journal was to write more because it's structured. You can see every day has a full page to fill up. And sometimes I'm filling this with more ephemera and stuff, but I'm really trying to push myself back into my writing practice. And that's something I feel like I fell away from a little bit when I was journaling in this, and a lot of my spreads were very crafty, very junk journaly, which is fun for sure, but not my intention for keeping a journal. I wanted to make sure that I had things to write about, because if I didn't have some sort of point of reference to come back to, I knew that I would fall out of being able to write about my life. So I made this spread of writing prompts. So I wrote a little bit of my intention of getting more creative and in-depth with my writing again, using my daily pages to document what's going on in my head. I think that's another big thing that I was starting to miss when I didn't have any structure to my journaling and was just jotting things down. I'd just write down what happened that day and not dive deeply into what is going on in my head right now. I like to know what projects I was working on, where I went that day, but I really want to know how I felt about it. And that's something that's in my old journals that I feel like I've fallen out of, and I wanted to get back into that, which is what these prompts are for. Something like, instead of writing what happened, write what you were thinking about. Writing a moment from the day as a vignette. Something that was challenging, something you're grateful for, something inspiring you. Writing about what I'm watching or reading and really reflecting on the media I'm consuming. Writing about dreams and goals. Write what you see. Write how life has changed since this time last year. And I've got plenty of room to add some more as I think of them. This was kind of just what I dumped out the first time I sat down to set my intentions for the journal. So you'll see some of these pop up in a minute. I've got another blank page here that I haven't gotten to yet. I'm thinking what I might do is a little time capsule, because I will look back at old handouts and books from when I was a kid, and there'd be, what's your favorite animal? Who are your best friends right now? What's your favorite color? Your favorite subject? That kind of thing is so fun to look back on from my childhood. So I thought, why not bring that back now and be able to look back on what's my favorite movie right now? That's something I'd have to think about for a while. What's my favorite book? So I think that might be what goes on this page. It's still up in the air, but I would like to put something on this page. And then we've got our July cover page. I have this Winnie the Pooh storybook. Winnie the Pooh is like my absolute favorite. I found this at the thrift store. You can see it's got some pretty bad water damage. And I thought, well, that makes this perfect for cutting up and putting into my journal. So I think this journal, at least the title pages, are gonna end up being pretty Winnie the Pooh themed. I'm not sure yet whether this will be the whole page or whether I'm gonna add maybe some other stickers just to fill in the extra space. I like the simplicity right now, but I also like the idea of filling up the space a bit more. So if you have an opinion on that, let me know in the comments, because I would gladly take them. And then we get into the actual journaling. So the way I've set up most of my spreads, you can see I've got 2 columns, because each page, if you haven't used a Hobonichi before, has a little invisible line right here to kind of divide up the page. And I use that first column for my daily log, essentially. So I start with the time and where I am in the moment. I love that Elle from The Common Corner does this, and it really inspired me because she talks about centering yourself in the space and time right before you journal, and I love that. So I've done that pretty much every day, writing down kind of where I am as I'm starting to journal. And I write down in this first column pretty much a standard journal entry, like what I did that day. And usually that does a pretty good job of stretching until the bottom of this page. So my right-hand column then becomes these writing prompts, or just whatever is on my mind that day. So for this first day, I had gotten a couple of texts that really just made my day. And so I decided I would print those out on photo paper and glue them in. And then I wrote a little bit about this first message and then the second message and what they meant to me that day. And I'm so glad to have that documented. And then you could say I did the same thing here. I wrote a little bit, or a lot bit, about my attention span. That day I had just had such an awful time feeling pulled to my phone or feeling pulled in, 10 different directions. So I wrote about that and kind of what I would like my life to look like ideally, and how I'd like to make some changes. And I've got another from the little Winnie the Pooh book. This Christopher Robin was so cute. I just love how the colors turned out on this page. I was very excited that this was my first foray into the Hobonichi. This one I wasn't quite as proud of, but it's still fun, still cute. This was my 4th of July weekend, We went to visit family, so I wrote a bit about our day, our trip there. And then in this free space, I wrote, on the top, I wrote about some comments I'd gotten on YouTube and Instagram that had really made me happy that people were resonating with some of the things I'd written or filmed. And then I wrote a little bit about watching my little toddler nephew grow up and reflecting on that period of time in life. And the next day, I actually wrote a couple of times. I wrote in a couple of different chunks, so you can see I wrote the different times. And then this is one of my vignettes. On the night of 4th of July, we took a nighttime swim, and we were able to see some of the neighbors' fireworks, and it was just a very simple but very special couple of hours. And I wanted to write about that from a deeper POV. So instead of just the overview of, we went for a swim, I wanted to get deeper into seeing the fireflies, watching the fireworks, the smells, capture what it was like being there in that moment, more so than just talking about the fact that we did it. You know, facts versus feelings and experience. And then this page still needs some work. I wrote about our day, and then I wrote some of the funny quotes from the day, just because I don't know if your families do this. Our family always likes to write down the funny quotes that the people say, and I thought this would be a fun place for that to live. I did start writing it at the bottom, and then I wasn't very happy with it, so I covered it with washi, and now it's a little disjointed. It needs something here still, and maybe cover up some of this better. On this page, I wanted to use this Allie Edwards travel kit big plastic piece, and I also put a little label from our ice cream. But because that took up so much of the page, instead of doing 2 columns, I just kind of let the journaling from the day take up the whole space. That's something I've been loving about the flexibility of the Hobonichi, that because you've got this grid situation, you could get so much more crazy than I've gotten. I haven't even really touched that yet, and I'd love to experiment with that more. I've seen people write vertically. Because of the grid setup, I've seen people do boxes all over. So far, I've mostly stuck to either 1 or 2 columns, but we'll see. Maybe I'll get a little crazy with it later. This day, I wrote about my day and then wrote a little bit about my ponderings on junk journaling versus traditional journaling, because I've done some of both, and I find it interesting that there's been such a pivot toward junk journaling and very tactile things instead of focusing on words so much. And I know there are communities of people who will do one or the other or both. I've certainly done both, but it was very interesting to reflect on because it's something I've been thinking about and something I wanted to rein myself back in on to really focus on honing my writing craft. And I say writing craft, this journal, I am not trying to be artsy in my writing. I'm trying to be artsy with my stickers for sure, but I'm just doing a word dump. I'm not trying to write a memoir in here or anything, but I feel like this is a good starting point to get all of my thoughts down onto paper. And if there's a nugget of something that I might want to share, that's great. But for the most part, this is just for me. This isn't trying to sound nice. It's trying to just get words onto the page. I've got another daily log, and then talking about books, it was something my group chat of friends had been discussing, whether to buy books and have a collection or to get them from the library. And I do a mix of both, obviously, but it was so interesting, people's perspectives. So I wrote a little bit about where my stance is on that. This day we went to go see the new Jurassic World, so obviously I had to use all of my dinosaur stickers. These are more of the Beanie Babies. I got another stamp from just a piece of mail that we got, and then I have been cutting out little bits from an old dictionary, and that's been really fun too. And for my free writing this day, honestly, it took me a little bit to write this out. I let it sit for a couple of days because I didn't have really very many thoughts about the movie. It was so just there. Like, I didn't have very many like super positive opinions or super negative opinions. It just was kind of a movie. But after a couple days, I came back in and wrote the few thoughts that I did have. You can see I got a little wild with the setup because I did like point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. And then continuing the movie theme, I had seen someone post the New York Times 100 Best Movies of the 21st Century. And I was curious, so I clicked through it and checked off all the ones that I had watched. And I had only watched 23 of them. And so I had the thought of, what would my top 100 or top 50 movies be for the 21st century? What movies do I think are the most impactful, the most creative, the most enjoyable, the best message or theme? And so I kind of wrote out a list of some of either my favorites or the most impactful movies that I've watched from the 21st century, which was a fun prompt to get me thinking through kind of what movies have made a difference, either in my life or in the world in the last 25 years. I love how this page turned out. Something about the sticker placement, I think I've noticed some of my favorite spreads have the triangle principle woven into it. I love the distribution of color and everything on here. I wrote about my day, and then I wrote about my work in progress. If you don't know, I am a freelance writer. I'm a children's book author, and recently I picked up writing I suppose a novella. I'm really not sure where it's gonna go, but it's been so long since I've written fiction for fun. It's something that I don't even know if I'm gonna publish, but just playing with writing again has been so much fun. So I took some time since I'd been writing that day to write about what inspired it and kind of where I think it might go, what my goals for it are, because my goals for this new story is really just to have fun and to practice writing. And then I've got this cute little mushroom that says, her mug says Junk Journal Club. So cute. And it worked out perfectly. This next day we played D&D with our friends, and so I've got a random D20 sticker and then a sticker that one of my friends made of the group party portrait that I had drawn, and then one of our party members is a shroom folk. So this sticker reminded me of her a lot. And then with my blank space, I flipped to my prompts and decided to write about, what are you grateful for today? And instead of making a list, I kind of just picked one thing that I'm grateful for our home. And so I filled up this whole page talking about how grateful I am to have my own space that I share with my husband, obviously, where we can spread out all of our things. It keeps us safe. It allows us to bring friends in to visit. And I love decorating so much that it's also been kind of a way to express both of our personalities through design. So I just wrote all of that out, all of the many reasons that I am just so grateful for the home we have. And then we're starting to see, I have some blank spots that I do want to fill in. I try my best to make sure that the daily log gets written down the day of, so that it is a reflection of that day in particular. But the extra space that's more free writing, I'm a little more lenient. I like to do it on the day of, but sometimes I don't have a full hour before bed to write things down. So I'll go back during a time that I have a bit more free time to fill in the blanks. Just as long as I'm writing a good amount, it doesn't matter to me quite as much what day that's written on. So on this day, I wrote some notes and reflections from church. I wrote my shopping philosophy on here because I try to be very thrifty, we'll say. But sometimes once I start buying things, I find myself kind of in a cycle where I get really into buying things all at once. And So I was kind of in that where I swing between minimalism and buying all the trinkets. So I wrote this as kind of an intention and a philosophy behind like how I want to shop, especially for things that aren't necessities. And then here we go. You can see my first completely blank space. I'm okay with this. I'm okay with going back and filling this in. This day, we had just wrapped up watching a stream of Expedition 33, which is my current obsession. I've watched so many people play it through so many times. I adore the story. And so I have a little Esquier sticker. And then I just left a little sticky note for myself here to write down some of the new thoughts I had about it, because every time I watch through it, I notice something different, and maybe even a little bit of a study as to what really works with the story and what I'd like to implement in my own writing. We'll see what happens when I start word vomiting on the page. We played D&D this day too, so the fantasy theme very much worked to carry over. So I've got another Beanie Baby sticker, and then these stickers, I think I've got it tucked in here, are from the Creeping Moon Co. A friend had brought me this sticker pack back from a convention she went to, and I have made good use of them. And then I wrote a little bit about, I had written out not quite a mission statement, but just some reflections on what I'd like honestly, my whole career to look like, what I want to write about, what I want to share online, and all the impact that I'd like to have with my career. So I wrote that in my journal after sketching it out on a page to document what that mission looks like right now. On this day, I was able to weave in a few things that we did that day into the ephemera, which I love doing. I love being able to flip through and know exactly what day I was writing about just by looking at the stickers. This day, we had put in a dog application at a rescue, and this one didn't work out. We still don't have a dog, but I did write out my many thoughts about it. We'll see what comes of this maybe in a few months, but I had been so sold on getting a dog. And then when we were actually finally putting in the application, I don't know if anyone else does this, I'll as soon as I'm about to make a commitment to the thing I've been wanting for forever, I freak out a little bit because I'm like, oh my gosh, am I ready for this? I know I've been daydreaming about this for a week, but am I ready for this? So I wrote out some of those thoughts and worked through what were my hesitations. It was worth thinking through, and ended up settling on, yes, I do still want a dog. I really want a dog. So I did want to have a puppy sticker on the page. And then the other thing that was of note that day was we went to go see Superman. And so it worked out nicely. He's got a little white dog named Crypto. And he's even kind of in a Superman situation at the pose. And then I added in the little red bow and to add in some of the Superman colors. And then this is from my American Girl sticker book that I had gotten in a previous video. Again, I'll link that one so that you can see me flipping through that. But because we went to the movies, I found this little television set. And then the next day, we got pizza. So I had cut this out from an old cookbook, and the colors matched so perfectly. And then because this took up so much of the page, my daily log just kind of took up all of that space. And then, oh boy, you're starting to see where I'm slowing down a little bit. Eventually, I do want to get all this filled in with some kind of writing, some kind of reflection from, this season of life. Not necessarily those days, because it's too late for that. But I really only got my daily logs written down from those days, and then a few little ephemera bits from a junk journaling get-together that I went to. So much fun. Here we're back into daily documenting. I've got my daily logs, and then on this day I had a very vivid dream that night before, and noticed that it kind of had some recurring themes with other dreams I'd been having. I'm not somebody who puts like a ton of stock into dreams and meanings. Sometimes I just have really weird dreams. But some of the patterns I noticed, I was like, maybe this is worth writing down and exploring. And then one of my prompts that I'd written down was just write what you see. Super easy because, I mean, you don't have to do anything special with it. You don't have to really think about it. Just, right now I can see all my notebooks on my desk. I can see my journal in front of me. I can see my pencils and paintbrushes over there on the shelf. That's honestly, I started this night at my desk, so I wrote a lot of the things I just named. And then in the middle of it, we got up and started getting ready for bed. So I took a pause, brushed my teeth and changed and everything. And then I continued writing from sitting in bed and what I could see there. So that was a fun experiment. We've got another day another couple of days where I did not write anything in depth. We've got another bow, another Beanie Baby sticker because I put in another dog application that day. And then this is just a little magazine clipping. So we've got that. This weekend, I had my sister staying with me. And so I flipped through that American Girl sticker book and found this little, rather big, actually, this big sleepover sticker. And the girls just reminded me of me and my sister. So I stuck those on the page. Still haven't filled in that space. But this is also a cutout from a cookbook. It was so cute and it also reminded me of us. So I stuck that in. And then the day was so busy that this all is just daily log. And, some days are like that. Some days are super busy. Some days are super not. So it's just kind of how it worked out that day. We've got another page with some empty space that I'd love to fill in eventually. But this, again, is all daily log because I kind of filled up the first column with this Raising Cane's napkin. I just cut out the logo from a napkin, took a glue stick, slapped it down. Then I added a few other little bits and bobs that kind of matched the vibe of the day and the vibe of the page. And then this cute little bed was from the American Girl book too. And I put that on there because I was so fatigued that day. And that was kind of what I was writing about that day, was just being so tired and overwhelmed and unmotivated. This is another day where I wrote mostly just my daily log in all this space. There are some thoughts and feelings sprinkled throughout, but it definitely didn't all fit in the first column because I put this giant burger on the page. This is another cutout from a cookbook, and it reminded me of the burger that I get at our favorite burger place. So when we went there, I decided that would be a good piece of ephemera for that page. And then another blank page, as you can see, but I did stick this bow, which I had cut out from an old craft pattern. I don't even remember how long it's been since they handed these out at craft stores. I feel like this has to be like 20 years old at least. But I thought that would be cute, just as a little decoration and to fill up some of this blank space until I can go in and add some writing. And then this brings us to the end of July. I've got another cookbook cutout and then a bit more space that I would like to go back and fill in. And then I've got my next cover. I am loving the little Winnie the Pooh covers for each month. I've gone in and started on August because I'm filming this a couple days late, but I'll show you those later. Something I do want to show is kind of my system for future ephemera. This is another day that I know we're going to play D&D, and I don't want to forget about these stickers, so I've kind of just tucked the sticker sheet into the day I know I want to use it. It does bulk up the book a little bit, and it does make it a little difficult to be too mobile with my notebook because stuff will slide out. I don't know, it calms me a little bit to know that I'm not gonna forget the ephemera that I have planned for a future date. Let me see if I can find, yeah, I tucked all of my Halloween type stickers into October already. I've got these, and then what I did for stuff that's on a bigger sticker sheet is I just grabbed some parchment paper and stuck individual stickers down onto this, and they have actually stayed pretty well. I'm pretty happy with this as kind of a makeshift sticker sheet. Let's see, I think I have December too. I went ahead and got my Winnie the Pooh all ready for December because this was so stinking cute. I knew I needed to use this. And then I've got just all these little Christmas bits and bobs. And my hope is that I will actually use more of my stash when I do this. If I plan ahead a little bit and tuck things in so that I remember to use them, I'm hoping that that'll be effective. And I don't really have anything in the back yet. We've got all these blank pages still. I'm guessing I will fill those in when I get closer to the end. But for right now, that is where I'm at. So hopefully this video gives you a bit of an idea of how I'm using my Hobonichi so far and how the system is evolving a little bit for me. Overall, I am super happy with this book. I don't know that it'll be my forever journal or my forever planner. It also very well might be, we'll see. I was mostly just so curious seeing everybody using them, and I loved the grid. I loved the paper. Oh, this paper. I know there's been some drama. I've been keeping up a little bit with the drama of the paper changing. I haven't noticed anything because I've never used the old paper, and I also use a ballpoint pen, which I know is a little crazy. I know there are probably a lot of journaling enthusiasts who are just flabbergasted because almost everyone I see in the journaling community loves fountain pens. And that might, I'll never say never, that might be something that I dip my toe into eventually, but right now, I just love a good ballpoint pen. This one is Mr. Pen, and I had initially gotten it for Bible journaling because Bibles have these very thin pages like this, and it works super well, does not bleed, and you can see on this paper, it is not too bad. Let me see if I can find, you can kind of see on my cover page, you can definitely see a little bit of ghosting. You know, you can see that I've written on the page before, but like, you can't really see when there's writing on there, you can't really tell, except for something like this, you know, when I'm writing super dark and heavy. But overall, I am totally fine with that. Mostly I love the feel of the paper, especially when you've been writing on it for a while. It gets all crinkly and nice. These don't smear. I cannot speak to whether a fountain pen smears on my paper. But it sounds like the fountain pen community has you covered and can tell you exactly what kinds of paper they work on and what ones they don't. But working with a ballpoint in this has been really nice. I'm a big fan. So I am excited to move on to my next month, my second month ever in Hobonichi, and keep you updated on how the system is working for me. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I love sharing my journaling stuff with you guys, so if you're wanting to see more of this book or any of my other books, definitely stick around. There will always be more. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, thanks for hanging out, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.